Okay, so we'll get started with National Income Accounting, Focus Area, Unit 5, Focus Area number 17. So in this next 1.5 hours, we'll try to finish the whole thing off quickly. So I want your support. Give me answers on the chat box. The faster we finish, the faster I will finish off today's class. Cool? Okay. There's a bit of a cartoon also just to give you all a bit of a context. What do you all think this is about? We'll spend 2 minutes on this. What is it about? You have Trump, you have an elephant, you have something marked as India, you have something marked as Russia. What's happening around? Anyone? No one. So what's happening here is Lamai in terms of tariffs. So if you all remember, so Sri Lanka got a better deal. No? Now we got a deal of 20%. So from US, right now our tariffs, which was 44%, they brought it down to 30. They brought it down to a 20%. But if you look at India, that did not happen for them. So for India, initially, when we had tariffs of 44% put, India had tariffs of 26%. But after that, it was only reduced to 25%. Tariffs was only reduced to a 25%. Why? Trump was mad because India is importing oil from Russia. So India imports a lot of oil from Russia. They're also getting military equipment from Russia as well. US also produces oil in US also produces oil. US also has military equipment. So Trump is a little mad that India is getting things from them. So that's why he did not reduce the tariffs much. But recently, in the last 3 days, what he did is on top of, now these are the 25% overall thing. No? On top of this, he put another 25% saying, because you're doing this with Russia, I'm adding another 25% tariff on you. So that's the story with Trump and India. So the negotiations with Trump, the reasons were openly said. US and India are not that great right now. And so you might have the other countries also step in and see. Sri Lanka, however, we've got a kind of a okay-ish deal. 20% looks okay compared to most other countries. They are also at similar levels. Our competitors, Bangladesh, Vietnam, 19-20% is where they are. Okay, let's get into the questions. 2012, question number 20. So I want you to give me answers fast now. We'll try to finish this fast, okay? In calculating GDP, all of the following are excluded, except which one? Which one is not excluded? Value of intermediate goods, definitely we put. That's double counting, no? So this is excluded. The value of homes built in the year in question. This we include, Lama. If you build a house, that will go under where? Gross fixed capital formation. Gross fixed capital, this will be included. The value of used goods, no. Second-hand goods, we don't include. Purely financial transactions, no. Subsidies from the government, Lama, we don't include, no. So remember, when calculating GDP at market price, you minus subsidies, add taxes minus subsidies. So what do we include? We include the value of the houses built. Now remember, Lamai, do you include the purchase of an already built house? Let's say, for example, my house is there, you're buying it. Is that included in GDP? That is not included, because then that is a second-hand transaction. Right? That is a second-hand transaction. If I have a house and you're buying my house, that's a second hand. But something that is newly built, we will include. Okay. How rent all is there? Rent will definitely be included. Government consumption is government expenditure. It's not in this question, but that is it. Okay. Then the next one. 2012 A-levels question number 21. They're asking you, they've given you some information and they're asking you the net domestic product at market price equals what? So this is ideally, Lama, it has to come under expenditure approach. But never mind, we can do it now. How do we do this? So they're asking for net domestic product. No, government expenditure, that be subsidy. Government expenditure is expenditure on education, expenditure on healthcare, those. So how do you get this? Can you tell me, Lama, based on the information that they have, what approach should we use? They have given GDP, wages, depreciation, gross investment, private consumption, net exports, net indirect taxes. Tell me, which approach should I use to calculate GDP? Because otherwise you end up taking all unwanted things. They've given us information for what approach? Mainly the expenditure approach. So you need to know the components, then only you can find that. So how do you calculate GDP using the expenditure approach? You have private consumption, government consumption, right? You have gross investment, that is GDE. For this, if you add net exports, you get GDP. From they are not asking us for GDP, no, they're asking for NDP. So then from GDP, you have to minus CFC, then you get ND, net domestic product. So quickly give me the numbers. Private consumption, 2,200. Government purchases, 500. Gross investment, 400. Net exports, minus 50. How much is our GDP in this? 3,050. GDP is 3,050. Minus CFC. CFC is depreciation. That is a 400. How much do we get? 2,650. So these are easy questions. So answer number 1. Done. Then the next one. 2013 A-levels question 21. Which of the following would not affect the size of the real GDP? Indirectly, what are they asking? Something that might not be included in GDP. Because if it is included in GDP, it will affect the size of the GDP. So they ask me what will not affect the size. Indirectly, what do you think we will not put? So which will not put? Consumer purchases a new car. New car you might put my brand new car, you will include. Government purchases a new bus. New one you will put. A consumer purchases a haircut. Haircut is a service you will put. Right. Investor purchases a rare Renaissance painting at an auction. Painting at an auction is what, Lamai? What is that? What do you sell in auctions? Do you sell brand new paintings in auction? No, these are second-hand all things, right? So these are second-hand transactions. So eka daanne naha GDP wala. So then this is your answer. This will be the one that will not affect your GDP because you don't put it. Firm purchases a new power generator. Yes, that is gross fixed capital formation. You will put. But the others, you will not include. Okay, so that's 21. Answer number 4. Okay. Because if you all missed a question, you can check your past paper book because otherwise I'll go up and down. Okay, 2014. The national income data for a hypothetical economy is given. What is the value of the trade balance? Trade, what is another name for this trade balance, Lamai? Trade balance kiyanne what? That is your, no, not your GDP. Trade balance is your net exports. So here see, they have given us all the information. They are telling us, now you all know in the expenditure approach, GDP equals private consumption, government consumption, investment, plus net exports. So they have told us GDP is 1,920. They have given us all the other information. You find net exports. So private consumption is 1,200. Government purchases are 300. Private investment is 400. Then what is the missing figure? How much is the missing figure? 1,200, 1,500, 1,900. Missing figure is a 20. No? Net exports is a 20. So as long as you know the equation, you put the numbers and balance it out. So which one is your answer then? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Plus 20 or minus 20? Plus 20, no? So your answer then has to be number 3. Right? Done. That's 2014. Then we go to the next one. 2014, now there is another one. Because this question I have a feeling I have typed it a little wrong. Can you all look at your past paper book and see if there is anything that I have not typed? Suppose that the growth of nominal GDP is 13.5%. Inflation rate is 6% and the rate of growth of real per capita GDP. Is there a population growth rate given in the question? Can you check the actual A-level question and see? In your past paper? Is there anything else or have I typed it correctly? Quickly, let me know. Is there anything else, or have I typed the question correct? I have a feeling I've missed a certain part. Growth of population is missing. No, so how much is the growth of population, Lama, given in the question? Can you all note that down? 1.2%. Okay. So they have given a population growth of 1.2%. So I'll tell you how do you find this. Okay. Now, from your nominal GDP growth, listen carefully. Nominal GDP growth, if you remove means minus your price level growth, that means your inflation, you then get Lamai your real GDP growth. Real GDP growth. So according to this question, nominal GDP growth is 13.5%. Inflation rate is 6%. Your real GDP growth is 6.5%. Okay. But the question is not asking you for real GDP. They are asking you for real per capita GDP growth. So how do you go not just real GDP growth, the real per capita GDP growth? Sorry, 7.5, sorry. Right. So real per capita GDP. How do you do that? So to get real per capita GDP growth, from your nominal GDP growth, you have to minus inflation. And you have to also minus the population growth. So if you do this, right, now all of this together, this is your real, not just GDP, your real per capita GDP growth. So how much is our population growth? I have not typed that in the question, my bad. That is a 1.2%. So 13.5% minus 6% minus 1.2%, you get how much? You get 6.3%. Okay. So then your answer is number 3. Now I feel an interesting way that they can confuse this question for you this time is, now in Sri Lanka, inflation rate is negative. So instead of saying inflation rate is 6%, they can say inflation rate is minus 2%. So then ideally it is a minus into minus 2. And actually you have to add them if that is the case. And in Sri Lanka, population growth has also come down now. Our population is not increasing, population is decreasing. So then again, it will be a minus, let's say minus 1. Then also you will have to add. So be a little careful. So if your inflation is rising and if your population is going up, you will deduct. Okay, that's the story there. That's the 6.3%. We have not directly learned this in theory class, but this is normal, common general knowledge on how to get it. You remove the effects to get your answer. And remember, when you give percentages, you can't divide and all. When it's percentage changes, you have to add those. Okay, that's 6.3% there. Then going to the next one, 2014 A levels, question number 25. Suppose that the GNP for a particular year is higher than the GNP in the base year. So they are saying the gross national product for this year is more than the gross national product in the base year. Now, what can you tell about? This is the current year. What can you tell about, Lamai? So at constant prices, what can you tell about the output of the economy? Compare to the base year. If your output GNP is GDP plus net primary income. If this one has increased, what has happened to your output, the amount of goods you produce? Compare to the base year, your GNP this year has gone up. Constant prices. So output has increased. You have produced more. So your output has actually increased. You produced more because compared to last year, this year your GNP is higher, they are saying. Now, ideally, if you're measuring GNP at base year prices, prices have to be constant. But then there is no answer saying prices are constant. So then how do you look at the price change here? You look at it, Lama, using your aggregate demand graph. So your aggregate demand, if you remember, this is your real GDP, or your real output, horizontal axis. And this is the price level. So they are saying the real output has gone up. So let's say right now real output is 100 million. It has gone to 120 million. So if your real output has gone from 100 million to 120 million, what do you think would have happened to the prices now? What do you think would have happened to the prices in the economy? If you're producing more now, the prices in the economy should ideally come down. So output increases and you can say the general price level comes down. Okay, that's a good MCQ, Lama. You can put a star for that and keep. So which one is your answer then? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. One says decrease in general price level, wrong. Increase in general price, fine. Decrease in output, wrong. Decrease in general price level, okay. Increase in output, okay. Nominal GDP, yes, is GDP at current prices. Not current year GDP, GDP at current prices. Increase in general price level at a higher rate than increase in output, that we can't say. Increase in general price level, no. Okay, so answer number 3. Okay, so 2014-25 is number 3. Because any questions you missed, I'll take it at the end of the class, right? Because others have to go up and down. Okay. Then 2016. 2016 is saying, this is an interesting one again. They're saying, try to understand. Suppose in a given country, the general level of prices has risen in the past year. So let's say from 2023 to 2024, the prices have increased. So prices have gone up. But production of goods and services has remained constant. Your output has remained constant. Based on this information, which of the following is correct? Can you tell me, Namai, what will happen to your real GDP? Real GDP is your GDP measured at constant prices. If your output is constant, what would have happened to your real GDP? Real GDP doesn't take into consideration price effects because real GDP is measured at base year prices. So real GDP would have stayed unchanged. Real GDP would have not changed. But even though your output is constant, if prices went up, what do you think will happen to your nominal GDP? GDP at current prices. Nominal GDP would have increased, because nominal GDP would have gone up because you now measure the current same output at a higher price. So nominal GDP would have increased. So which one is your answer then? Yes, nominal increase because of inflation, because prices have gone. Answer number 4. These are not very hard, but these are somewhat good questions there. His previous questions, if you missed it, like I said before, I'll take it at the end of the class, because otherwise just for one person, I have to always go up and come. Once everyone leaves, at the end, I'll explain it too. Okay. If output changes, then it depends on the question. So if output has increased, then you can say real GDP increased. If output has come down, then real GDP would have come down. Because real GDP, if real GDP is increasing, definitely output has to go up because real GDP prices are constant. You don't look at the price change. You measure it at base year price. If real GDP has come down, means output has come down. That you can definitely say. Then the next one, 2017. 17 question 23. Suppose the GDP of a country in current prices has increased by approximately 8%. That means your nominal GDP. So your nominal GDP has grown by 8% between one and the next year. But real GDP fell by 2%. So you all know, Lamai, remember I showed you that thing earlier. Nominal GDP growth minus inflation growth is equal to your real GDP growth. So they are saying, even though nominal GDP went up by 8%, your real GDP has fallen by 2%. So if you connect to the equation, Lamai, how can this fall by 2%? What do you think would have happened to inflation? Inflation would have gone up by inflation would have increased by 10%. So your nominal GDP went up by 8%, but inflation went up by 10%. That is why your real GDP is seeing a reduction of 2%. Now, that is what happened in Sri Lanka in 2028. 2022. In our economic crisis year, in 2022, right? Our economic crisis year, Sri Lanka's because of inflation, our nominal GDP is high because prices are doubled. After you had 70% inflation in September, prices are almost double. So nominal GDP will go up. But along with that, inflation also went up. And in 2022, we had negative economic growth of around 7.3%. So your real GDP growth becomes negative when your inflation increases more than your nominal GDP growth. So then which one is your answer for this? Answer number 10. You can't do this using MB equals PD lemma because these are, this is nominal and real GDP. The percentage changes. It might be a little difficult to do it that way. You can if actually, right? So you can, but then it has to be the P and T part only. But that's the same thing broken down. This is the PY both and this. I would say normal this way should be okay for unit number 5. How many of you got this correct? 1723. Answer 4. Yes. Fine. Okay. Right. Good. Then the next one. 2018 question 23. What is not included in the measurement of GNI? Yes, nominal GDP is current prices. What is not included? Financial benefits paid to the unemployed, dividends paid to shareholders, profits retained by companies, rent paid to landlords, property income paid to resource owners. Remember, this is GNI. Yeah? So this is GDP and net primary income. So net primary income is also a part. So which one do you think will not be there? I think one of this is a transfer, Lamai. One of this is something that you're just getting. We say in GDP or GNI, we don't include transfers. One way unilateral transactions. Which one is the transfer? Your transfer is number 1, right? Financial benefits paid to the unemployed. So people who are unemployed. Now in Sri Lanka, but in other countries, if you're unemployed until you find a job, the government gives you some amount of money. That's called unemployment benefit. Those are transfers. Until you find a job, just you will get money. So those are not productive activities. So you can't put that in GDP, unilateral one-way transactions. So that's the one that is not there. So dividends will be there. Dividends is there in primary income. Right? Primary income is rent, wages, interest, profit, dividend. So all of those will be there in GDP and primary income together. Isn't current transfers included in a second? When you say current transfers, that is from one another country to us, not within the, now our government giving pensions will not be in net secondary income. Work remittances will be there in net secondary income. Foreign current transfers. Okay. Government gives money for everyone above 18. They don't, but if they give something, yes, that will be a unilateral transaction. You don't put in GDP. Okay, so 23 is number 1. 2019. 1920. Which the following is a component of gross value added at basic price? Think of the different ways that you get gross value added. So you can get gross value added lamai. One is the output approach. Another one is the income approach. You can get. So which one do you think is a component? Now, in the output approach, nang lamai, from your gross value of output, you minus intermediate consumption to get gross value added. Then in the income approach, now you have compensation of employees, gross operating surplus, mixed income, other taxes, less subsidy on production, right? Production, that is equal to your GV. Okay. Which one do you all think? Intermediate consumption level. Is that a component of gross value added? Yes, we use intermediate consumption to calculate gross value added. But is it a component? No. You're minusing intermediate consumption. From your gross value of output, you are reducing or deducting intermediate consumption to get GVA. So does that mean GVA includes intermediate? No, it's not a component. So one is not an answer. Change inventory, that is in expenditure approach. Expenditure approach, there is nothing called GVA. Acquisition valuables, expenditure approach, nothing. Taxes less subsidies. Taxes on products don't get adjusted for GVA. Taxes on products come from GVA to GDP. Right? So taxes on products are also wrong. Other taxes less subsidies on production, yes. Yeah. In the income approach, if you all remember, when calculating GVA, there are 4 components. Compensation of employees, gross operating surplus, mixed income, other taxes less subsidies on production. Why is the first one wrong again? Intermediate consumption, you deduct to get GVA. So how are you saying intermediate consumption is a component of GVA? Now, for example, I'll ask you another thing. Is subsidies, right? Is subsidies a part of GDP? Yes or no? Is subsidies a part of GDP? When calculating GDP, see, maybe expenditure approach, or let's say income approach, you add off it GVA plus taxes minus subsidies. You're minusing it because it is not a component. So subsidy is not a part of GDP. Now, for example, okay, if I ask you, is imports a part of GDP? Now, imports is there no expenditure approach, okay? C plus I plus G plus X minus M. That is what GDP is. So is imports a part of GDP? Is it a component? No. Because it's not a component, only you're minusing. So if you're deducting something, it's not a component. You're removing it. So just because it is there in the calculation, just because it's there in the equation, that doesn't mean it has to be a component. Now, you can't say imports is a component on GDP. You're removing imports. It's in the calculation. Same way, you can't say intermediate consumption is a part of GV. You're removing intermediate consumption. Okay. So that's why one is wrong. Cool. That's 29. Then 2020. 2020 question 20. In national accounting, which of the following activities is excluded from the production boundary? Which one? Services of unlicensed medical practitioners. Those are illegal. Do you exclude though? You don't have a license, but you are prescribing medicine and doing illegal. But just because it is illegal, you don't have to exclude. If you have data, you can put. So this is included. It's just that the fellow who does it, he won't report the data, but it will be included, ideally. Services of owner-occupied dwellings. Yes, if you live in your own house, government calculates and include. Goods produced by households, include. Right? Because if households produce a good you can include. For example, if you grow vegetables in your garden, you can include that in GDP. Provision of free education by the government. Yes, that is not a transfer. That's education. That's a service. You include. Caring for the sick and old people. That do we put. Those are, remember, services done by households. Services by households for themselves. We don't put. Goods produced by households for themselves, we put. Now, if a household, let's say, for example, at our house, I have grown some chili, right? I have a chili plant. I grow some chili. Good, no chili and good. You can include because you can measure a value. But in my household, I go and let's say sweep my house. I can't include. If I sweep my house, I can't include because that is a service because you can't measure a value. Now, if I sweep my house, what do you put? Do you put 100 or 200? Or is it 5,000? So services by households for themselves, they are productive economic activities, but you will not include in GDP because you can't measure value. Your mother looking after you, your mother looking after your grandparents, your mother now even coming and cooking dinner for you and giving you something, you can't put in GDP, can't put a value. So that's the answer. So number 5. Remember, illegal activities are included in GDP. Yeah? Whether it is illegal or unlegal, illegal or legal, if it is a productive economic activity, we have to put. So this, whether this fellow is an unlicensed fellow or licensed fellow, he's providing a service. No, he's providing a service for someone else. Now, for example, if I prescribe, let's say I'm not a doctor, no, but let's say some of y'all now, how many of y'all have migraine? Yes, y'all have migraines. My sister last year used to have when she was doing exams. I think situation is better now. Right? Usually when you get stressed out and all of it, you get migraines, you get these headaches. Okay. So now, let's say, for example, now I know my sister took these medicine. So let's say I prescribe that medicine for you. I tell, you all have migraine, take these tablets, take these tablets, take these things. And I charge a small fees also wrong. I say, I gave you medicine, no, give me 1,000 rupees. I am not supposed to do that. I don't have medical practice now, and I don't have a license to do that. That's a complete illegal thing that I have done. But it's a productive service. I told you some information, I got some money. Ideally has to be in GDP, but since no one has since no one had what? Since no one reports it, practically it might not be there, but theoretically you have to put. Okay. Done. 2021. These two tell what. Okay. 2022, question 22. In a given year, if nominal GDP is 1,200 billion, real GDP is 1,000, then the deflator. Now, if they have given Lamai these absolute values, now you can divide and all and calculate. Now, in the previous questions, now they gave you percentage growth. Percentages divide karanna ba. So what is the equation? It's a very simple equation. What's the equation? Your nominal GDP divided by your real GDP multiplied by 100 is your deflator. So your nominal GDP is 1,200. Your real GDP is 1,000. Multiply by 100, how much is your deflator? How much is the deflator? 120%. That is that. Here's also one more thing. Just a reminder on your end. Be careful with your debit cards. Right now, for example, a few months ago, even my debit card got hacked. Right, so you will have these weird transactions that happen from your debit cards. For me also, there was this some support thing and some dollars that got cut. Now, then I blocked all my cards, and I usually have a debit card in an account that I have less money. Now, for example, the account that you all pay class fees for, earlier I was using that debit card. Now I don't put because that has a lot of money that comes in. So you all also, maybe after you all are done with A-levels, when you start working and all, better to have like 2 accounts, because you don't know when these scams are, banks will also not take responsibility. So today also my sister had $50 cut from her account. How we think she hardly works and earns some money. $50 is 15,000. Right? So for her, that's a big amount, right? For y'all also, that should ideally be a big amount unless you're filthy rich. So be careful with those things, especially I have this feeling, especially this Uber Eats, right? My sister hasn't really put her card anywhere. I also haven't really put my card on unwanted websites. So the Uber Eats, their servers and all get hacked, because on Uber Eats and all, you put your card details and when you order food and all. So better to have 2 cards now. So maybe the account that you have a lot of money with, don't even get a card for that. Have online banking for that. Online banking is comparatively safer. So that account number, don't, just that account number do not come on, but don't have a card for that. Have another account with a card. So for that account, let's say have 5,000 rupees or something, put something like that. So then if you want, if the money runs out, ඔයාගේ main account එකෙන් make a small transfer. That's what you can do. No, tomorrow morning we don't have a session. Fast track classes are done. Okay. Which is, I don't know if you know, just because I say the name. Okay, so 2023, question 21. Yeah, so be careful with that. Which of the following statements is correct? Earnings from gambling are included in the production boundary of national income accounting. You gamble and earn something, can you put that in national income account? Those are like purely financial, right? You put something, you earn something. Gambling, ideally, no. Right? So it's included. It's illegal also, but not this one productive one also. Right? No. Consumption of durable goods is not a component in primary income. Consumption of durable goods can have a depreciation. Depreciation is there under what? Depreciation is there under gross operating surplus. So gross operating surplus is a part of primary income. What language do I use at home? What do you think I use at home? Guesses? At home, I mainly speak in Sinhala. With my sisters in Sinhala, with my mother and father also. Yeah, mainly Sinhala. English, I would say a 20% English, a 75% Sinhala, maybe a 5% Tamil. I don't really speak Tamil. I understand Tamil because my parents, they speak with Tamil, but I don't speak Tamil. I can manage Tamil. Not that I can't manage Tamil. I can manage Tamil. I'm just not fluent in speaking Tamil. I perfectly understand Tamil. I can listen to you. I will totally understand. But if some of you talk to me and speak in Tamil, I might reply to you in English because I can't do that. Right. No, I don't talk in Tamil. So that's I don't know. I think that's a weakness on my end, right? But at uni, I got a little better. At uni, I had a few Tamil friends and even some Muslim friends who were from out of Colombo. Those fellows don't know Sinhala. So then my Tamil got a little better on there and there. So I think mainly I would say 90% Sinhala is what I do. With my wife, she's a little posher than me though. With her, I would say it's more English. With her, it's more English and less Sinhala, zero times. Right, coming back to this. Growing vegetables in your backyard for personal use is counted in the measuring of GDP. Yes or no? You grow vegetables in this. Speaking Tamil very hard, Lavai. Sometimes some parents call me in Tamil, I hardly manage and do something, but I can't do a lot. That is an answer, right? So you grow vegetables in your backyard, Lamai, that will be included. That is correct. So one is wrong, two is wrong. We look at the others. Provision of free education is not counted. No, it is counted. Education is a productive service. Mixed income is earned by all institutions. No, it's only earned by the unincorporated. Mixed income can be those poddy businesses. The unincorporated business, not by everyone. So then that's also wrong. So which one is your answer then? Number 3. Why is 2 wrong now? Consumption of durable capital goods. So consumption of durable capital goods can be depreciation. So depreciation is a component of gross operating surplus. Inside gross operating surplus, you have depreciation. So gross operating surplus is a part of primary income. Remember primary income, it's a part of it. So you can say it is a component. You can't say not a component. Okay. Then 23, there's another one. Suppose that last year's real GDP of a country was 12,000, nominal GDP is 6,500, deflator is 150. What is the growth rate of, this last year, growth rate of real GDP? So real GDP, last year it was 12,000. How much is this year's real GDP? That you have to calculate, Lama. This year's real GDP, they have given nominal GDP and they have given the deflate. But don't we minus CFC in gross operating? We don't. Inside gross operating surplus, CFC is there to get net operating surplus, minus karane. No, one is not included. One, it's illegal and it's also not it's not a productive activity. Gambling is a purely financial transaction. You just put money, you get money. It's not a productive activity, so you don't put. It's illegal also, you don't put out. It's not productive also. No, first one is not in the production market. Okay. Now, so second year, they haven't given us the real GDP. So how do we calculate the real GDP? Nominal GDP is 16,500. Your deflator is 150. So how much is your real GDP? Real GDP in 2000, this year, 16,500 divided by 150 into 100, 11,000. Yeah. So then is the real GDP 11,000. Okay. So then in the previous year, real GDP was 12,000. Now it has come to 11,000. So your economic growth rate is how much? How do you find the economic growth limit? It's your new value. New value is 11,000 minus your old value divided by your old value. So remember, how do you calculate a percentage change? The change divided by the initial value. Initial GDP was 12,000. Your change is 11,000 minus 12,000 into 100. So your GDP has fallen by 1,000. That is the change. How much do you get as a percentage? Minus 8.3%. Why do you think this question showed up here in 2023? A negative real GDP growth. Because in 2022, you had negative real GDP growth. Remember, 2022 negative real GDP growth was minus 7.3%. So connecting that, they now ask you a theory question. They don't ask you the practical side of it, but they just show you a theory question based on it. So those kind of things can show up in your paper. Then the last question, I'm guessing. Yes, last MCQ. Then we have the essay questions. What's this? Informal economy refers to, what's the informal economy? Activities that are illegal and hidden from the government. Economic activities that are not monitored or regulated by the government. All economic activities conducted by small businesses. Economic transactions that occur among large corporations and non-profit making institutes. The subsistence agriculture sector of the economy. Which one do you think is the informal economy? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Last MCQ. Give me an answer. Quick. Activities that are illegal and hidden from the economy is not informal element. Right. Now, for example, if I do take for example, tuk drivers. Tuk drivers, not the pick me Uber fellows. Nikang tuk drivers. The Nikang tuk drivers, the normal fellows, right? They are not doing anything illegal. They are providing a transport service. But they are part of the informal economy. They don't have formal registered businesses, pay slips, nothing like that. So then, can you say informal means illegal? No, informal doesn't have to be illegal. What is informal? Informal are the activities that are not monitored or regulated by the government. That is number 2. That is what you call an informal activity. So you, now for example, are these tuk drivers regulated by the government? Do they have to pay income tax, pay EPF, anything? This thing? Nothing, right? Are they monitored? No, government doesn't know. They do whatever they want. That is informal. All economic activities conducted by small businesses, no, now, if a small business is registered, that is not informal. Now, for example, iTutor. Now, the institute that I have, iTutor, we are registered private limited company. Right? We are a small business. I'm not a big business. No, I'm just a small one. But I'm not a part of the informal economy. So I have financial statements, taxes are paid, all of that is there. So just because you're a small business doesn't mean you're informal. Okay, so then 3 is also wrong. 4 is completely gone. Agriculture sector, not that. 3 is what I just said. No, why is not 3? There are small businesses that could be registered as well. So you will not consider that. So it's number 2. Okay, that's the MCQs. How did you all do out of the MCQs? There were here 17 minus 2, 15 MCQs. How much out of 15? Oops. With 3 months to go, at least around a 10 out of 15, I will feel is a decent enough mark. And is there one word for the first answer? One word in a sense. This is actually illegal and hidden from the government. Those are illegal economic activities. That's a part of the unobserved economy. So I feel 10 out of 15 is a decent enough okay-ish mark. There. Okay. Done, 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 done. Give me a second. We'll then move into the essay question. So we'll finish the essay questions today, okay? Because otherwise, no point doing next class. So essay questions also, you don't have big paragraphs ones. There are most of the ones are actually easy that have this, what are these included or excluded in GDP, those kind of things. So there are only around 10 essay questions. Okay, so we'll do the 10 essay questions, finish off. So the next class we have one entire new thing to do. I will also finish off by 10 because I have a dinner to go. Friday night, my friends and family have dinners. People go, I stay and I do my class and I go at 10. I'm also personally not a very social person. Also, social person can I associate with people, but I don't know about you. I'm not a big fan of these family gatherings and friends. Yes, I hang out with my friends a lot, but these family small talk and I just hate it. Right. So I try my level best to avoid it. So right now my wife has gone to Gaul for a wedding. I didn't go. I said I have my class to do, can't cancel the class. 3 months for the exam. So they have gone to, they all went to Gaul. I'm nicely at home. So at 10 o'clock, my friends are coming to pick me up to go for dinner. I'm going for that. So if I have classes, I try and I rest. So I'm not a big fan of this whole this thing. I don't know if I'm an extrovert or an introvert. I was very extroverted, but right now I like to keep my circle small and especially family, not a big fan of family gatherings. And even now, for example, let's say, for example, my birthday, I prefer the least amount of attention on my birthday. I've never publicized my birthday anywhere. I don't think any of y'all know when my birthday is. Now, for on physical classes, it's a total different story. Students start surprising the teacher and my birthday comes and goes. No one knows. No one says anything. And even if my close friends, they put a story, I don't repost it because if I repost it, then other people see and they also start wishing me. So I just reply, thank you. And I'm doing because sometimes it's annoying now. Sometimes now, for example, not that in a bad way, but imagine you get all the students get to know and they send you 500 students send you happy birthday messages. So that actually happened for me once, right? Somewhere in 2022 or something, I started resharing a post or something and all students got to know. And I got so many happy birthday messages and I replied to some of it around 3 months later. So I actually felt bad. From there onwards, I keep it private. How many messages reply to also, no? Right. So we'll go to the essay questions. We'll try to finish it off soon. On my end, we'll try to finish it off by 10. So give me answers fast. Why are some productive activities not measured and thus are not included in GDP? Is this a serious problem in estimating the total output of a country? Estimate, explain your answer. So can you first tell me some productive activities that are not measured and not included in GDP? Can you give me some examples? Productive activities not measured and not included in GDP. Like what? For example, all the services provided by households. Services by households for self-consumption. Right? So for example, cooking. Right? Those things are productive activities, but because you can't measure the value of it, because you can't put a value for this, you don't include. That is one. Then what else? Productive activities. Now, what about the hidden economic activities? These are also productive economic activities. Things that people purposefully hide, because if you go and register the business, tax given on EPF given on minimum wages you have to pay. So all of that is there. So you don't hide, you don't report. So hidden economic activities. And then maybe even you can talk about illegal activities. So illegal economic activities also, no, those are productive activities, but no one will report. So you can talk about those. So they are not included because either they don't report it or you can't measure it. And then you might have so much of informal activities also that might not actually get captured. Now, for example, let's say How does the government know how much of chilies I am growing in my garden? Government doesn't know that, Nilamai. So therefore, what happens? It gets on this. So sometimes, due to the unavailability of data, productive economic activities get this thing. Is this a serious problem? You can say to some extent, yes. Because what happens then when these activities don't get included, GDP is underestimated. Ideally, your GDP has to be much more, but it gets underestimated. Yes, illegal are productive, but you think illegal things you don't report. So that is that. So that's the story there. So you have to now explain this, Lamai. So how to write the answer, that is the thing you have to write. You put the points together and write in an answer. So first talk about what type of ones are not included. Then is it a problem? Yes, because of this, what happens? Your GDP becomes underestimated. Then GDP doesn't show the true picture of the total output of the country, and go on to it. That's the part. So how do you work on your answer writing is Lamai, more and more you write. That's what exactly what we'll do in the mock exam series also. You have to write. If you don't write, Lama, your writing won't improve. Just come into this class and look at my face. Writing doesn't improve. Pen on paper, write. Write. Writing gets better. Okay. Next one. 2012 question 4. Which the following are included in the country's GDP? Explain your answer in each case. Natural activity without human, yes, you can talk about that also. What about this? Interest received on corporate bonds. Is it included or excluded? Interest on a corporate bond that you get. Included, Lamai. Why is it included? It is the return that you're getting for your investment, right? You have invested your money, took a risk and bought a corporate bond. The return you get for that is called interest. That will be included in GDP. So I'm not writing the explanation. You write the explanation. Pension payments received by retired people. Do you put that? Pensions? No, they are excluded because they are non-productive transactions. They are transfers. They are purely transfers. You are not doing anything, right? Just you're getting when you retire. So you don't put this. Purchase of insurance. Insurance, yes. Commission received, yes. Insurance, yes, because insurance is a service. So you, for example, I pay my now have you all seen my under GDP services or insurance theme? You put in GDP. So that's included because it's a productive service. Purchasing 100 shares from a finance company. You rent on an apartment. By exclude purely financial transaction. Rent. You include. That's a service. So they are providing a housing service. If I give my house for you for rent every month, if you pay me 50,000, what does that mean? I'm providing you my house. I'm providing you a housing service. You're paying me money. So you will include in GDP. Right. You have to give a small one-line explanation also. According to 23 question, they're saying growing vegetables including GDP, but we say that as well. I'm not saying that is not included. It has to be technically included in GDP. But practically, if you don't have data, how to include? That's the thing, right? Now, for example, if I grow vegetables in my garden, theoretically, SNA says, put it in GDP. But practically, how does the government know how much of vegetables I grew? So practically, it might not be there. Theoretically, if they say it should be in GDP, yes. But practically, will it be recorded? It might not because no data. That's the thing. C is purchasing insurance. I mean, insurance is a service, no? So any product, good or service offered to the market will be included in GDP. So for example, I have a car insurance. So I pay a premium in return. If something happens to my car, they will come and do it. So that's a service. You will include in GDP. Okay, 2019. What is the underground economy? How might its size be reduced? What is this underground economy? I mean, underground economy is what you call the unobserved economy. So what does this include? The unobserved economy includes what and what? It includes your hidden economic activities, right? So hidden economic activities are legal economic activities that people hide so that they don't have to pay taxes, they don't have to meet the EPF, ETF payments, they don't have to do all of that. No. So that's hidden economic. Then you also have illegal. So illegal economic activities are also a part of your underground economy. So you can kind of explain. So what is underground economy? Lamai? These are productive economic activities that have to be included in GDP, but no one will report. No one will give you data. That's why it's called the underground economy. These are productive activities. Has to be in GDP, but no one will report. So that's why you call it underground. That is what has hidden and illegal. How can you reduce the size of it, Lamai? How can you reduce the size of your underground economy? Give me some options. How can you reduce the informal economy doesn't necessarily have to fall under hidden. It could fall under hidden, but sometimes it's not hidden. Now, for example, if you take tuk drivers aren't hiding anything. They are not hiding anything. Government hasn't told the tuk drivers to come and pay income tax. So it's not hidden also. Hidden is something that people purposefully hide so that they don't have to like pay taxes, meet the standards and all. But tuk drivers aren't purposefully hiding. So all informal activities doesn't have to be hidden. Okay. So what can you say, Lamai? You can provide incentives to report. Okay, so for example, if you come and register your business and all under incentives to report, you can reduce tax rates. So then people might register and they might actually pay. You can have heavy penalties. If you don't register, then nankia, right? Heavy fines or penalties, right? You can have those. What else? Strict rules and regulations, right? You can have different things like that. So that way you can reduce your underground economy. Okay. Next one. 2016 A levels, question number 3. Explain whether the following transactions are included or not included in GDP of a country. Okay. What do you all think? A tourist hotel purchases 10 million worth of foreign-made canned food. Do we put it in GDP? Included or excluded? Or included or not included? It's not included for 2 reasons. Okay. Can you tell me the 2 reasons why we don't put this? One, it is foreign made. It's an import. Something, it is a productive activity. It is an import law. So you can't put imports in your GDP. Now, for example, all the vehicles that we are importing, GDP, those are imports. That's why we remove imports. That's one thing. What's the other reason? The other reason, canned food is an intermediate good. It's intermediate consumption. Then you end up double counting. Now, even if this canned food was bought by a local fellow, you can't put because it's intermediate consumption. A canned food decking, they might make a salad or something and give under that you can put. That's the final good. So one is intermediate consumption, the other one is import. So because of that, you don't put. Second one, a soft drink manufacturing company builds a new bottling plant. They have made a new factory. Do we include? Yes, that is gross domestic capital formation. You include, right? Then investor buying 30 million shares. No, purely financial transactions. Book publisher has produced too many copies of a new book. The surplus of copies were added to inventories. That is. Now, for example, now I told you we are doing this MCQ program. So I will definitely print a little bit more books because I can't print 1 or 2 books. Now I print convert. I have to sometimes print, let's say 500 books, 300, I have to print. But let's say I print 500 books and let's say a number of students who came for my MCQ program is 200. Then I have 300 books left. So those 300, I will, let's say, give it to the next year, but same ebook. So even though I didn't sell it, even though there is no private consumption expenditure, then that will get added to inventories. That will be included in GDP. Include, that's that change in inventory adjustment. Fine, that's 2060. Then going into 17. Explain how GDP is calculated. How they encountered all these things. What do you mean encountered? In different approaches, it gets captured, right? Explain how GDP is calculated and how GDP at market price is different from net national income. So here, when you say how GDP is calculated using 3 approaches. So you have to show all 3 here. So you have to show how is GDP calculated using the output approach. So using the output approach also, you have multiple ways. No? Industrial origin, agriculture, industry, service, then get GVA and adjust net taxes. Or the institutional sector, non-financial corporation, financial corporation, that way. Right? So your product explain that. Then how do you do it using the income approach? Right? So there are three ways. In these three ways, this is how you do. So income approach, compensation of employees, gross operating surplus, that story. Then how do you calculate GDP using the expenditure? So all of it, I would ideally feel one small intro paragraph, 3 paragraphs each, output, income, expenditure, how to calculate. And then you have now talk about how GDP at market price is different from net national income. So GDP, how do you go to net national income? GDP, you add net primary income, you get GNI. From GNI, you minus CFC, you get net national income, NNI. So then you have to explain the difference. The difference between GDP and net national income is net national income will include net primary income. However, you have to remove or you have to exclude consumption of fixed capital there. So the equation you have to explain. That's what they say. This has to be included, but this has to be removed here. That's the difference between these two. So if you do that, you then get your full marks for that. 2018. State whether the following items are included or excluded in the measurement of GDP. Quickly. Housewife grows vegetables in her garden during the current year, and the entire harvest is used for home consumption. Vegetables you grew included. Those are goods, no? Goods provided by households for themselves, you will include. And included. Because the productive economic activity. Second one, retired worker receives pensions. No, excluded. Transfers, same thing they're asking, no? Motor vehicle dealer earns a commission for a second-hand car. What about the commission, Laman? You sell a second-hand car, I buy for 2 million, and I sell it for, let's say, 2.1 million. You don't include the entire 2.1 million. But that 100,000 is my commission. No? I bought the car, I පොඩ්ඩක්, let's say, wash the car, paint කරලා, ඉක්මන් එකේ දාලා, පොඩ්ඩක් advertise කරලා, I match the buy and sell, and that's my commission. That is my income. So commission you have to put lamai. So the commission will be included. Then a mother helps her daughter to learn mathematics at home. Household service. Service, no. Exclude. Because why? You can't measure it now. How are you going to put a number? If your mother helps you with maths, how are you going to say 1,000 rupees? Yeah, that. Then 2018. Explain the following terms. Value added. Value added, Lama, we had a previous past paper also. Remember, we explained in the focus area 16. So what is value added? That is the newly created value, right? At each stage of production for 2 marks, Poddak explain the story. Why you do that to avoid double counting, all of that. What is inventory investment, Lama? Inventory investment is your stock of inventory. This is the stock of unsold goods at the end of the year. Now you have to include inventory investment. That is why, Nilamai, you include that in the expenditure approach. Now I'll take the MCQ book example. I printed 500 MCQ books. Right. So if I printed 500 MCQ books in the output approach, this 500 will be there. But even though I printed 500 MCQ books, let's say only 400 students joined my MCQ program. Just the example. Huh? So then what happens? Then 100 MCQ books I did not sell. So I have an inventory of 100 MCQ books, let's say in my booklet. Did not sell. So for this 400 only, it will be there in the expenditure approach. Under expenditure approach, private consumption. So when you all pay and buy the MCQ book, it will be included in the sorry. Where will it be included? If you purchase the MCQ book under expenditure approach, it will be included in private investment. Sorry, private consumption. So now see, there is a problem. No? Output approach has included 500 MCQ books. Expenditure approach has included only 400 MCQ because only 400 was sold. Yeah. That is why in the expenditure approach, because all the approaches have to give you the same number, Nilamai. That is why in the expenditure approach, whatever that you are not able to sell, your unsold inventory, I have spent money and produced it. As a business, I have produced. There is the investment that I have put to produce it, but it has not yet got sold. So GDP is not all the final goods that you sell. No, GDP is all the final goods you produce. So that is why, remember, we have something called change in inventory. Change in inventory here, we put that 100. So then 500 MCQ books are there in the output approach. Expenditure approach of the 500 are there. 400 is in one place, 100 is in another place. It's there. So then both approaches will give you the same value. That is what you call inventory investment. Inventory investment is the stock of your inventory that you have not sold during the year. So that will get added under gross domestic capital formation. Then what is GDP deflator? GDP deflator is a measure of price. So it's a measure of the overall price level of all the final goods and services produced by the country. Why do you use the deflator? You use the deflator to remove the price effect from your nominal GDP to get your real GDP. So 2 marks, Poddak explain the story. Then finally, you have non-produced, non-financial assets. That is something we learn in actually unit number 10. What are these non-produced, non-financial assets, Lavan? So non-produced means that is not man-made like tangible. It's not a financial. It's not like shares or bonds. What are those? Those are things like, for example, royalties, right? Royalties, patents, licenses, and things like that. So you can say non-produced, non-financial assets. There is no like particular definition for that thing. The definition itself comes from this, not produced, not financial. So things like what? Royalties, patents. For 2 marks, Poddak explained that. So that's what you need to do. So that's 8 marks in your paper. Random things from nowhere, they're just asked to explain for 2 marks. These are not hard, but these are new though. And you've not seen these kind of things before, but not difficult ones. Then the next one, state whether the following are included or excluded. Investor purchases 1 million worth of shares. Yes or no? Shares, no. For the 100th time, no. Excluded. Constructing a new house, included. Purchase of 5,000 worth of fish by a restaurant in Colombo from a fisherman. What do you think? If you remember the story from the previous one, you can tell me. Remember previous one, you bought canned fish from abroad. I told you it's excluded for 2 reasons. Here you're buying from a Colombo guy. So produced domestically. But still it's an intermediate good. So you don't. Because fish is the intermediate good. A fish, they might make hot butter cuttlefish, they might make devil fish. That is the final good. That will be included. This fish you can't put. It's an intermediate good. Collection of 5,000 worth of bee honey from a farmer from a nearby forest. Farmer goes to a forest and collects this, included. Remember that is there in our tute also. Productive activity, even though it's naturally there, some human intervention is there. Someone is going and taking and coming. Research project costing 10 million complete by university team on the impact on COVID. What do you think? So research is also like a service, right? So you do a research about how this includes, you can include in GDP. So that's that. So can you see now? It's kind of the same thing. Hamadama may include, exclude, dahani. They have like around 10 things. Those 10 kind of things, they keep this thing. D, is it a do yours? Yes. Kind of something like that. Okay. 2021 question 5. In national income accounting, indicate the institutional sector which each of the following belongs to. What are the institutional sectors? You have non-financial corporations. This is the first time they're asking that. Non-financial corporations, financial corporations. You have the general government. You have households. You have non-profit institutes, serving houses. So from these 5, which ones do this go to? Tell me. Fisherman Cooperative Society. So fishermen have got together and they have made like a cooperative society. What is this? Non-financial corporation, financial corporation, government, households, non-profit institutes, serving houses. Cooperative societies. Those are non-financial corporations, right? These are financial banking, insurance, seva. So fisherman corporation is like a small business, so non-financial corporations. Southern Provincial Council. Provincial Council is what? That is easy, that is government. General government. What about the Chamber of Commerce? Chamber of Commerce is there for what, Lama? Chamber of Commerce is not a, it doesn't deal with money and all. No. Chamber of Commerce is there to advise and provide, standards and right? That is a non-profit institute serving households. Insurance. Insurance, that's a financial corporation. So just labeling these four, Lama, you get your 4 marks. That's as easy that question is. Non-financial corporations, Lama, so any businesses that are not in the financial sector. Now, for example, ITUTSL is a non-financial corporation. Retail stores, grocery shops, clothing stores, saloons, restaurants, non-financial. So non-financial corporate plus financial together, these are all the firms. So the firms that are in the financial sector, insurance, banks, finance companies, leasing companies, they are all in this. Everyone else is in non-financial corporations. Okay, right. National Chamber of Commerce, that's a non-profit institute serving also. So National Chamber of Commerce, it's not really a corporation. They are there to set these standards, advise the government, help people, things like that. That's a non-profit institute serving households. Okay. So 2022, 5R. Non-profit institute serving households. You have, for example, these even political parties, religious parties, these clubs and societies, Sarvodaya, Red Cross, Rotaract, Interact, all of those will go there. Maybe even temples, you can. Define nominal GDP, real GDP, and gross domestic product per capita. So what is nominal GDP? Nominal GDP. Now, what is GDP? GDP is the value of all the final goods and services produced in a country during a given period of time. So what is nominal GDP? It is that GDP measured at current year prices. So it's the value of all final goods and services produced within a year measured at current year prices. That's what you call nominal GDP. What is real GDP? Same thing. You measure it at what? You measure it at constant prices. The value of all the final goods and services measured at constant prices, or you can say base year prices. So constant prices, base year prices, same thing. Huh? Then what is your GDP per capita? So your GDP per capita is your per person's contribution to the GDP. That's your GDP divided by your mid-year population. That's GDP per capita. So for 1 mark, 1 mark, 1 mark, product, explain, define what this. Not hard. Then 2023. How would the following events affect the GDP? See, now they are not asking you whether it is included or excluded. They are asking you, how will the following events affect the GDP? So what do you all think, Clara? We'll start with the first one. Members of the parliament vote for a decrease in their salaries with immediate effect. So parliament members, let's say like the NPP government, they have said, look here, we don't want higher salaries now. Pay us less. How will that affect your GDP? What do you all think? Does it increase GDP? Does it decrease GDP? Does it not affect GDP? What actually happened? Can you all give me an answer? Others? No. So you can say, Lama, this could you can argue this in a few ways, but I feel since they are saying immediate effect, what you can say is the government on the expenditure side, Lamai, if salaries go down, government expenditure goes down. So government expenditure goes down means expenditure approach, GDP goes. Or else on the income approach side, compensation of employees, parliamentarians also employees, no? So compensation of employees is going down. So you can argue in that way and say, look here, GDP falls. So either income approach, compensation of employees falls, or expenditure approach, government spending falls. So you can say GDP comes down, or it decreases. Okay, that is that. Then part B, An investor buys a piece of land with the intention of building a house. With the intention of building a house. He has not built the house yet. He has bought a land with the intention of building the house. So immediately when he buys the land, Lama, is there an effect? Now you can explain here, right? There is no, you don't have to write one short answer. So immediately when he buys the land, no, when you buy land is second hand, Lama, always. You don't have newly created land. So immediately when he buys the land, you can say no impact on GDP. But however, in the future, this is an explain question. There is no one, this is not a one-word answer. So say, in the future, if he builds a house, what happens? However, in the future, if the investor builds a house, then what can happen? GDP can increase. So that's new capital being created, right? So that's what you can write. Okay. What about this? A retired worker gets an increase 2,500 in pension allowance. How will that affect your GDP? That won't affect your GDP. No impact. Why doesn't it impact? Because these are transfers. These are unilateral transactions because they are not included in GDP. So whether it increases or decreases, we won't have an impact. Firm increases their inventories. What will happen? Now, if I print more and more MCQ books and store and keep, what is going to happen? GDP will increase because even though I haven't sold, if I have produced, you can sell. That's what you have to do, Lavin. So now remember, now here, they're asking you how would the following effects affect the GDP? No? They are not asking you included the excluded. So when they say affect, go into detail and explain, Lavin. This is what actually happens. For B, the final answer is nothing. So immediately you will say there is no impact. But however, if he builds a house in the future, then it might. If he does anything, we don't know. So immediately there is no impact. So you can explain that. There is no one word answer there. Right? Okay. 23. Then 2024. Easy one. What are the activities that are excluded from the production boundary from the system of national income? Explanation like 1 to 2 lines maximum. It is part of yes, gross domestic capital formation. What are the activities excluded now? So you have so much of things excluded. So write about 3 will. Right? So services provided by households for themselves. Financial transactions. The second-hand things. Then transfers, unilateral transactions. The natural growth of natural resources. You can't put saying that your trees grew, you can't put in GDP. You can say. So if you, I would say to be on the safer side, write 6. It's direct there in your tute, no? So write around 6 lamai because what usually it will be 1 mark per point tamai. But what if right, there could be a 5% probability that they might give half a mark per point. So then you go and write 3, you only get 1.5 marks. Usually it'll give you 1 mark. But if you know lamai, put that right extra command. That's okay. So don't take that risk. Okay, then we have the last question and then we are done. State whether the following statements are true or false and explain the reason for your answer. The production of goods for own consumption, such as subsistence farming, is included in the production boundary. True or false? This is true, no? It's true. Why? Because this is a productive economic activity. So these are you growing your own vegetables is a productive activity. It can be measured. You can put a value to it. So it will be included in GDP. Okay. The rest of the world is considered as an institutional unit. Yes or no? Is it an institutional unit? That's also true, Lavin. Now it's not a main one. Now, for example, here I didn't take rest of the world, but you also have, for example, imports, exports. So they also get added into it. Right? So it's also this thing because every country you can say, why is it true? Because every economy is an open economy, right? So they deal with imports, exports, and all of it. So it is also one of the institutional units that you will have. Okay. Then vehicle registration fees paid by a business firm are a part of other taxes on production. Vehicle registration fees. Could be, right? Okay. It's not a tax on product, no. You can say true, right? You can say vehicle registration fees. Yes, if what I'm saying is different from the marking scheme, just correct me. So vehicle registration fees, that is like another tax on production, because if there is a company that is buying more and more vehicles, you put a tax on the product is different. I mean, for example, let's say IT utensil. If the government wants to charge a tax on my product, they have to put it on my students. And our government will say, okay, per student, you have to pay 1,000. But if the government is putting a tax on the number of vehicles I'm buying, let's say, for example, I start my own courier company. Now, I saw my last month. Now, okay, what about last month? Now, this month, I'm couriering the mock exam papers for you. For my 26 batch also, I'm sending. For my 24 batch fellows or 27 batch fellows also, I'm sending. Then different people who buy recordings, those also I'm sending. So this month, close to around, usually, I send around 1,000 packages a month. So if I'm couriering on 1,000 packages a month, let's say I start my own courier company. I start my own courier company and I start buying vehicles. Now I start buying lorries. So if the government puts a tax on that lorry that I buy, registration fee, that's other tax on production. If they put a tax on my final product, that's other tax on, that's a tax on product. On the production process, you can say this is also true. And then barter transactions are not included in the production boundary because no money is exchanged. What do you think? True or false? Barter transaction. This is false, Lamai. Remember in your tute, when I explained production boundary, I told you anything that can be offered to someone at a price or even at barter. Even you can give it for free. You have to include in GDP. It's there in your unit 5 tute. What is in the production boundary? Whatever you can include, whatever you can sell in the market, or at least provide it for free. Now, for example, this class that we are doing, this is a barter transaction. Maybe not even barter transaction. I'm not getting anything in return. I know. If you all give me something in return for this class, let's say you send me a chocolate, we can include this level. I'm providing this class. So you can, it doesn't have to always happen with money. We can put transfers, no. So for example, yes, you might give me the results. So giving a gift from one another, no, that we won't. But providing a proper good, right, in return, and you might give me, let's say, something in return, we can. So a barter transaction is not a transfer, you give and get. So let's say, for example, I give you a class and, okay, let's say, for example, okay, this month, let's say you have a small grocery shop. Okay, you have a small grocery shop. So instead of mock exam classes, I give you the mock exam class, you send me some, let's say 5 packets of Anchor milk powder. That's a barter transaction. I tell, me mass fees ki me Anchor packet park ke send me 5 packets of Anchor. So if that is the story, we will include Lamai. No money was involved. I gave you the class, you gave me 5 packets of Anchor milk powder. You have grocery shop, you gave me that. So we will include. That's false. So for you to include something in GDP, it doesn't have to always have to be sold at money. So even barter transaction that can be offered from one to another, we will include in GDP. Then the last one, taxes on products only apply to taxes directly imposed on the quantity of goods produced. What do you think? This class also we might have to. What do you think about this? The last one. Give me an answer if you're not falling asleep. This is the last question that we have. Taxes on products only apply to taxes directly imposed on the quantity of goods produced. Yes or no? Or true or false? Not yes or no. True or false? So it's not always on the quantity level, right? Now, remember I told you, usually in econ, if they use this word only, usually that is wrong here. Yeah. So here they're saying taxes on product only apply to the direct taxes on the quantity of goods produced. Sometimes it's not just on the quantity level. Sometimes you might charge a tax on the value. For example, now you might have so many different types. Now, you, for example, you have things like VAT. You have things like excise duties. These are all taxes on products, right? You have things like, for example, different sales tax, different import duties. So it's all on that. So it's all, sometimes not just on the quantity, right? On the value, always is, are usually always wrong. Yes. So you can't say only on this, but you can say taxes on products apply to any taxes that are put on the quantity, on the value of the good, and even on value addition that is created. It can be all of that. So this is also then false. Yeah. C is Lamai true. So vehicle registration fees, those are not taxes on products. No, those are other taxes on products. Exactly. Luxury tax, luxury good tax, and all of that. Okay, that's 2024. So can you see, Lamai, the most recent papers, they have made the questions a little bit more practical. They are changing it from the normal way. Instead of just asking, are these included or excluded? Now they ask you to put duck state true or false, what duck explain. They've tried to do that because they're also trying to differentiate questions. I think that is good. Well, these are not very difficult questions. And also remember, Lami, for a normal average student out there, you don't have to score 50 out of 20 out of 20. Even if you get 15 marks out of 20 marks, you still get your A. So don't worry too much about sometimes you might not get all 20. That's all right. Smart people, you target to get all 20, but in general, everyone doesn't want to get, we would like to have, but all of us won't get 95 or 100. No, we'll target for A. A is a good mark. 75 is a really good mark. So we'll get there. We should be fine. Cool. So that is all that I have for today. Questions, Damai, I'll take it up. I need to head for dinner right now. I'm also starving. I'll messages on WhatsApp, Lama, I haven't replied because I've been so busy these days sorting the website issue. The messages that on WhatsApp, I will come to you very, very soon. So with that, we'll call it off. Any questions? You can drop me a message on WhatsApp. Not immediately. Within the next couple of days, I will respond to you. See you. Bye-bye.